I want to show you guys something. And let me just tell you, here's what my prime problem with Donald Trump is. And I'm going to sum it up in one picture. We have Donald Trump, we have Kamala Harris. And the minute you see this picture, you're going to know exactly who these people are voting for. You're going to look at the picture and you're going to go, oh yeah, if they could vote, you know they would vote for Donald Trump. This is a huge problem with this election. And it's a group of high school students from Oklahoma. And here's the picture. This is the problem with our political world right now, is you know that these guys, if they could vote, would be Trump voters. And I think that says a lot about current American politics. Now, these guys were doing some Scrabble party for their high school, and they decided to take this picture and they actually put it on the internet. And in fact, the school didn't even punish them. It just didn't do anything. Now, this is Oklahoma, the state that has mandated the Bible in their schools, and they're all talking about how wokeness is a big problem. But this went on in their school and they have no issue with it. And then it ended up going viral, went national, and there was a huge blowback. And so now I believe their homecoming has been canceled and they've gotten in trouble. It's Tishomingo, Oklahoma. But the problem I have with American politics is we look at these guys and we just know that, yeah, those are Trump voters. That's MAGA. And that's alarming. And you're right. It is sad. It's real sad, but that's the state of American politics. This is why you have a presidential candidate and his vice president just made up weeks-long stories about Black Haitian immigrants being cannibals and eating pets and all that shit. And you can look at that picture and we know who those guys would be voting for. And that's super telling about our current political process. And that toxicity, it's a sad state of affairs. Now, what's interesting about this, Vivek went to Springfield, Ohio, and he had a little town hall, and he posted this. A black man at tonight's town hall in Springfield says he's almost never heard a racial epithet in the last 20 years. But in the last month, he's been called the N-word twice. And Vivek says this. He says, here's the truth. Racism in the year 2024 is mostly a reactionary response to the divisive anti-racist policies of the last 4 years. And this is such fucking bullshit, because those years of anti-racist work are why we've delivered a brilliant, successful black woman as a winning presidential candidate. The American social culture that has evolved with wokeness and anti-racism work is also why we have a black woman on the Supreme Court. It's huge in evolution. 30 years ago, you would never think about a black woman being able to be a contender for president in America. Not a fucking chance. Not a chance, bro. And this guy in Springfield is being called the N-word because of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance making up lies about Haitian immigrants, making up fake stories to paint Haitian immigrants as dangerous and cannibalistic and animal eating. Vivek is glossing over that. He's saying, no, you're getting called the N-word because the anti-racist work is making people divisive. And that's really toxic, because if anti-racist work makes you need to say the N-word, then you're a fucking racist, and you actually should be doing the anti-racist work. Anti-racist work will stop when people stop using the N-word, when people stop trying to blame racism on anti-racist policies. Like, what are you fucking talking about, Vivek? That's the most ridiculous shit ever. The Tishomingo Public School Superintendent issued an apology Thursday and canceled Friday's homecoming activities and football game after a photo of 6 high school students displaying a racial slur went viral on social media. The image depicts 6 Tishomingo high school boys wearing Scrabble tiles spelling out a racial slur, an action that the school district superintendent Brandon Moreland called an extremely poor decision. That's what he said. He called it an extremely poor decision. He didn't call it like, God damn, that's a systemic problem we have here that kind of mirrors these fake stories about Haitians and shows a real problem we have. He said it was an extremely poor decision. A separate notice was posted about 4:30 p.m. Thursday to announce that Tishomingo Public Schools homecoming activities scheduled for Friday, including the parade and football game, were canceled due to safety and security concerns. So you ready for this, though? Look at this. Let's make this clear about Tishomingo. The event happened on Monday. This is what's problematic. This thing took place on Monday, and there was no action taken, guys, until it went national and became a big thing. So the school knew of it and did nothing. The Oklahoma State Department of Education knew and did nothing. Then this guy blew it up on Thursday morning. Media became aware, and media presence started sniffing around Tishomingo and the school, and then they took action. If there had been no media presence, if there had been no media blow up, they would have done nothing. Tishomingo population is 3,000, 73% white, 4% African American, 4% means there's like 100 black people that live in this town, 120 that live in this town of 3,000. 15% representation of Native people. I mean, there's a lot of Native people in Oklahoma. I don't know if you spend time there, but that's really a cruel part of Oklahoma's heritage, is the fact that that was all Native American country and now they're trapped on reservations. This is a lot of the Plain States. It's really complicated there. It's not an all-white school, but it is a white environment. And I don't know if that makes sense. There are some towns like in Wisconsin that are like 95% white, and they might only have a handful of people of color. And in those towns, they tend to be nice to that handful. They just need it to remain a handful. You see what happens when a bunch of Haitians come in to take new jobs, like in Ohio. If there's too many people of color, they start getting irate. But in towns like these, in Oklahoma, and in particular in Texas, in some of those southern states where there's a high population of minorities, is where some of the greatest racism exists. Because Oklahoma and Texas and like in the South, it was white power. And Oklahoma is very similar with Native population. If you go to Oklahoma, you go to Kansas, you go to Nebraska, you go to the Dakotas, there's a long tradition of Native massacre there, where that land all belonged to natives, and the white man came in and killed all the bison, killed off their food supply, took all their land, used superior weapons on them, and forced them onto native reservations where they have, poverty and alcoholism. And in some states, they have casinos, which, provide them money and a little bit of power, but it also goes against their very principles. And so it's hard. But I'm just saying, like, the racism, though, is not about the fact that they don't know people of color. It's just sort of ingrained. The problem with this is how this is connected to Trumpism. This behavior is the stuff that is encouraged, and this is what Trumpism has brought us. The man, Donald Trump, who the Central Park Five, the ad wanting those innocent people executed, the birther controversy that he started around President Obama, the continued use of neo-Nazi sideline support with the Charlottesville stuff, the, stand back and stand by for the Proud Boys, encouraging the attacks on January 6th, which were all like racist, white supremacist groups, Patriot Front, Patriot Prayer, the Proud Boys, et cetera, et cetera. Donald Trump's long-standing talk about, his references to black jobs. He's always talking about Chicago. Look what he did at the NABJ when he went off on the black women reporters who asked him about some of his previous racial comments. He's had a long history of racism, now culminating with him lying to 70 million people about Haitian immigrants, and just a constant demonizing of immigrants and people of color, constant attacks on them that then result in a world where young people who are Trump supporters and look up to him do this kind of shit. It's heartbreaking. It's fucking heartbreaking. But again, guys, the deep problem that we have facing our country right now in 2024, and I'll say it again, I'm going to keep saying it forever. The problem we have right now is we have a presidential election and there's two candidates. And when you look at this picture of these Tishomingo kids, when you look at this picture, you know exactly who these guys support. You look at it and you instantly know who they support. That's a real problem, that there are many people in America that are going to vote for the guy who has emboldened these kids to behave like this. And make no mistake, they are emboldened by Donald Trump. Donald Trump emboldened Andrew Tate, who is emboldened by Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk, and all these guys. They're all emboldening each other. Charlie Kirk, J.D. Vance. But it goes back to Trumpism. Trumpism was stoking this, whether he was saying it outright. He may not have spelled it out with Scrabble tiles, but he has spelled it out with no uncertain terms through his behavior and the racial action he has taken for his entire existence. And this is where we're at now that there's a black woman running for president. This is explosive. And like he said, the principal called it an extremely poor decision. Now, we got to remind ourselves, guys, that the Oklahoma Department of Education is run by Ryan Walters. He's the guy who hired Haya Reichik from Libs of TikTok to be his school administrator. She has no background in education. She doesn't have kids. She's not from Oklahoma. And he put her in charge of school library materials. He nominated Haya Reichik to their state school board. They've mandated putting the Bible in their schools. The Bible and a bunch of N-words. Dude, this shit is so crazy because this is what Trumpism believes. This is what they beget. This is crazy that these guys are doing this in 2024. It's so heartbreaking that this is where we're at. Dude, it's pretty heartbreaking, boss, that this is where we're at. Oklahoma State Superintendent announces all schools must incorporate the Bible and the 10 Commandments. But here's the problem, guys. You ready? Christians, I'm sorry, but it's truthful. But this, the Bible and the 10 Commandments, and this are fucking intertwined, bro. The book, the Bible and the 10 Commandments supports slavery. And this word was an offshoot of slavery, bro. That's a problem. Evangelical Christianity is about white male Christians having the power. That is what American evangelical Christianity is. It is white male Christians have the power. White female Christians have the babies and raise them. And everybody else needs to be put into the white male Christian system. But the problem is this type of mentality is in the Bible.
Kids follow adults. And if this is being tolerated, this needs to stop. And it needs to stop immediately. So let us know what we need to do, because this is unacceptable.
See, the first thing we need to do is we need to stop voting for people like Donald Trump. This is directly tied to Trump and J.D. Vance making up those stories about Haitians. They're like one and the same. It is directly tied to them continually calling Kamala Harris low IQ. That is the trope, that people of color are dangerous, they're animals, they're low IQ, they're violent, they're cannibals, they're going to eat your pets. All of those things are tied together. And they're not specific to Haiti. They're specific to black people. They used to do that during the enslaved days. The white Christian slave owners spread those rumors around. That was like the common way of looking at people of color, and that excused their enslavement. It made it seem as though the white slave owners were actually doing them a favor by giving them steady work and a roof over their head and, a disciplined and orderly lifestyle. When if he wasn't, they were certainly going to go and just hurt each other and destroy one another. These tropes and this negativity and this racism has been here since the beginning, guys. It is literally like written in the DNA of America. And yes, DEI is, it's a pseudonym for it. DEI is the N-word. That's a DEI mayor is what they said, right? The mayor of Baltimore who won with 72% of the vote. But he's the DEI mayor, which in turn means black person who doesn't deserve it, which in turn means unqualified, incapable person of color, which in turn means N-word. DEI, CRT, woke, BLM, you know what I mean? They're all synonyms for this. Chicago is a synonym for it. Black on black crime is a synonym for it. We finally get a black president, Barack Obama, and then what happens? Here we are. After Barack Obama, we're right back here, guys. We're right back in 1950, bro, with Donald Trump and these motherfuckers, dude. And now we have a bunch of white frat boys that are like, go Trump. They're all wearing their MAGA hats and like, Trump 2024. But this is not good. Trump 2024, this shit is not good. Trump is not good. He is a ticket back to the worst impulses and the worst parts of this country, bro. Like, we need to, work overtime the next 44 days. We beat him and we excise this demon. We prevent him from getting into office. We will have averted a huge uprising of this shit right here. A black woman president will be the ultimate, no, we're not going back to this, guys. They want to make America great again. They want to go back. This is what they want to go back to. Make no mistake, 100%. All of the far right people, Donald Trump, Trumpism, this is what they want to go back to. 1950s white Christian power. Project 2025 is this. And you look at these guys, they love Trump. You know they do. You know it. You know it. You know it. You know it. It's so obvious. And we have a chance here, though, to fucking win this election and say, no, we're putting the black woman in charge. We're not going to go down this route. We're putting the black woman and the football coach who defended the gay kids in charge. And we're going to move forward not tolerating this. We are not going to be this. We're better than this. You know what I'm saying? We're better than this, guys.